So today, I've made this course because I wanted to share with you steps that I've taken to get promoted to account executive. According to RepView, the average SDR makes $82,000 a year as their OTE, and the average SMB account executive makes $140,000 a year. So pretty big jump. So I wanted to go through the frameworks and some of the things that I've taken to help me get promoted to AE and how I've been able to help 50 plus other SDRs get promoted to account executive. So the reason why I'm so passionate about making this course is because I wasn't able to find any resources out there that helps with specifically this. I joined Ian Koniak's community. His is more around like how to be successful in an AE role, but nothing from the transition from SDR to AE. Joined Jamal Reimer's community, and that was really good for like mega deals, like enterprise, like selling multi-million-dollar deals. And then joined Brandon Fuhardy's. But everything, there's a lot of resources for account executives, which makes sense because they make more money off of account executives rather than from the SDR to the AE role. So in this training, you'll learn a little bit more about my story. You'll be inspired. You'll learn about the framework on how I was able to break through. So this course will be geared towards building your confidence, having good habits, being able to navigate the internal politics that come with an SDR to AE promotion, knowing your worth, figuring out your secret sauce or uniqueness, I call it, finding out your blind spots. So what are some of the blind spots? What is the disempowering narrative? And what is the action plan I could take to get you to the next level? So I'll be doing a lot more of these webinars because I do think this is extremely valuable for a lot of people. So those are the 8 steps that we will be working on this. And I'll make more content so you'll be able to see more resources. I have a coaching program that I created now that's a 3-month program designed to help you get from SDR to AE that goes into depth everything that I spoke about. And then I have some mentorship. So every 2 weeks in a month on Monday nights, I'll be doing a training on some of this. So there's more of that group coaching, and then I'll have one-on-one coaching with you as well. And then so two days out of the month, I'll have like key influencers that will help guide you along the way as well. So hope that's helpful context. Now let's get right into it. So I want to share with you a little bit about my journey so you can understand that it's like, oh, well, how's this relate to me, right? So earlier on in my career, I was an SDR for Bounty Jobs. I was an SDR for Experian Marketing Services, and I was a pretty good SDR. I was always one of the top SDR, if not one of the top SDRs, and I was pretty good at it. Making good money at that time. This is back in 2016. I was making like around 82,000 a year, which is pretty good for an SDR back then. That was definitely on the higher end. When I first started, most SDR roles are paying like 55 to 60, 65 base at the highest. And then with OTE, it was like around 75 to 80. So obviously because of inflation, it's changed a bit. But I just wanted to provide context so you guys know that it's not just another sales guru that has never been in the SDR role, right? So what happened was, and this is took me a while to understand, but there's things that has happened in our past that has affected our confidence as to why we feel like we're not able to be a good account executive, right? And this happened because I was in roles previously where I wasn't excelling as an AE, so that really messed with my confidence. So we take me out of the equation. We all have disempowering narratives. Upon working with like 50 different SDRs to help them through that transition, some of it could be like, I didn't go to college, or I didn't go to a good college, or I'm a female, or I'm a minority. And most of the sales leadership looks a certain way, whether they're very confident, they're a middle-aged white man, and I don't look like some of the top SDRs or some of the top AEs out there. So a lot of it is a confidence thing. And so what did I do to how to like what are the steps and actions and communities I joined to help me grow this confidence, right? I joined Pavilion, but I felt like that didn't really have like it didn't really help me with specifically this track, right? It just gave me more tactical like med pick and all these sales methodologies. But you can have the world's best methodology, but if you don't really believe in yourself and you don't see what's the path line, what's the tactical things to help me get promoted, then it's not really gonna help you out too much, right? I reached out to a ton of mentors. So a big part of my program is going to be around like having these mentors come in and speak with you because that's important, right? And I've been doing a lot of coaching, helping at this point over 100 different tech sales professionals with their promotions and career trajectory. And I noticed the number one thing that gets in the way is believing in other people's projections. So I had a client um, yesterday that I met with in person, and he had a lot of people tell him like, "Hey, he's trying to get to the enterprise AE level, but he's currently at a he's not making like strat AE money, right? He has a company that has a pretty low OTE, like it's not like one of the big name tech companies. So, and everyone that he keeps talking to keeps putting him in the bucket like, "Hey, you should go for a commercial, you should go for mid-market account executive." And I was like, fuck that shit, dude. Like, don't believe in that. If don't I Your choice is to believe in the disempowering narratives or believe in a more empowering narrative. So if everyone's projecting their crap onto you, you feel like it's not possible. Oh, well, I don't have account executive experience. Like, how can I um, so the first tip that I would give is bring out the elephant in the room, right? Like, let's say you don't have any account executive experience when interviewing for these roles. So there's two paths, right? There's getting promoted internally, and then there's getting an account executive role outside. The second one I would argue is a little bit harder, but it's doable, right? I've helped a lot of clients with this. So when you're meeting with any good salesperson, you always want to address the objection prior to it. So you want to say, "Hey, Mr. Hiring Manager," let's say it's an AE manager. "Hey, I know that you're probably thinking similar to when you call someone, you're like, hey, I know you're not expecting my call." It kind of like throws them off guard, but they're thinking anyway. So you should say it. So, Mr. Hiring Manager, um, I know I don't have a closing experience, but this is what I can do for you. This is the value that I can do for you. And you say things like, one of the biggest problems with account executives don't have a lot of solid SDR experience is like they're used to getting lead gen from internal inbounds and they don't know how to go after and hunt for new business, right? So that's something that where I excel at, and here's why XYZ, boom. So that's something that I would bring up if I were you. And so you want to be able to have mentors within organization. So I'll teach you how to leverage informational interviews to get your foot in the door as well, right? But the things that I would consider like so the most important things so let me go through so I'll do mindset first, and then I'll do the fear of failure, and then not being surrounded by the right people, and then confidence, which kind of goes to mindset, lack of proactivity, that's 5, inadequate sales skills development, lack of mentorship, and so all right, so let's just do that. So mindset. So when thinking about mindset, write down all of the disempowering beliefs that you don't have, right? Because you're thinking it anyways. So this is a good exercise, right? So let's say my mindset is and then you want to list down the reasons why you think you won't be able to get promoted, right? It's like don't have closing experience, um, haven't been in the role enough. They keep hiring people from that or from the industry. Like maybe you're in MarTech and you're trying to break into cybersecurity, right? So write down all of your objections, and you want to a trick is when you talk to the hiring managers, just talk about you want to lead with that. Like, hey, I don't have closing experience, but XYZ, this is what I've done to, it's like shadow calls. I've been able to close smaller deals with shadowing the account executives, right? Like there's just little skill development things that you can do to help you uh, build and gain these skills. So once you write down all of those objections, the next common thing that gets into a lot of people's ways that prevents you is the fear of failure. So you might be comfortable in the SDR role. You actually might be the SDR, you might be the best SDR at your company, or you might even just be someone who just has never thought about being, maybe you've been an SDR for like 5 years and you're just comfortable with it, right? So it's always, obviously, it's going to be uncomfortable. And with anything, there's going to be a learning curve, right? But once you kind of get over that mental block, you're able to make 60,000 more, right? And who wouldn't want that? Some people might say, "Oh, well, what about my quality of life?" I would argue being an SDR is just as hard as being an account executive from like an energy and time commitment, right? Because as you know, being SDR, that's a grind, dude. So, and I know some of you want, maybe you've been in SDR for less than a year, but you do have to put in your time, right? It's not one of these things where you do it for a couple months and you're like, all right, I'm ready to be a badass account executive. So just doing your part, doing your time is important. Number Number three, not being surrounded. Be very careful of who you spend time with. If you're talking to other SDRs that are like bitching, complaining about the economy sucks, the world's coming to an end, then yeah, that's gonna be your reality, right? You're not gonna be able to succeed and have a lot of success. So number four, confidence. Confidence is everything, right? It's literally, let me tell you a story. There was a guy at LinkedIn who just got into like an enterprise account executive role at LinkedIn, which is actually like super competitive. Like most people don't start off, and this is like his first AE role, and I was like shocked. I was like, what the freak, like how's that even possible? But he just had so much confidence, and yes, some of it is like he came from a good background and he's done a lot of inner work, and he has parents that you know have groomed him the right way and instilled confidence in him. But most of you that are watching this right now, like, don't have confidence, right? So how can I build my confidence? Well, this is definitely not an overnight thing. I've hired 15 coaches over the last 8 years from 2000. Oh my God, I can't believe it's been 8 years. That's so crazy thinking about it. Starting from 2016 to 2024, I've hired 12 different coaches, have spent a lot of money, and that helped me build my confidence, right? So that's why I'm not promising any silver bullet. I'm not like, hey, tomorrow you'll land an account executive job, but working on your blind spots, your uniqueness. So let me share a little bit more about some of my blind spots and my uniqueness, right? So there's an exercise I do with my clients called the essence exercise, where you go up to the nine people that first come to mind, you give them a call and you say, you ask them like, what are my strengths and weaknesses? You're like, what? That's weird. Like, why would I even do that? But this simple exercise will help you because we're our own worst critic, right? So when you hear people say all these amazing things, like when I did this exercise, people like, this is when I first broke into my first, like, a true account executive role where I did really well at. So I asked like I did the homework to the nth degree. So I asked like 30 different people, and then people would say like you have good energy, you're like good at bringing people together, you're community focused, like you're super thoughtful. But everyone kept saying like good energy, and I was like, wait, what? Like that's something that I never have thought about, right? So it was clearly a blind spot. So the second step I to help you build your confidence is do an exercise called the survival mechanism. So a lot of us have unconscious we like programs. Think like a programmer, right? They're programming us for most people are fight, fight, freeze, or fawn, right? So that means when we're triggered, which happens a lot, especially in sales, because you're getting rejected all the time. When you're getting triggered, you so fight is obviously like you're like, no, I'm not, you're like very defensive, right? Fight, flight is like you literally just leave, like you hang up the phone, like maybe you call and then you're just like, ah, like maybe I'm not good at this. So there's a lot of, so it's helpful to have a coach to kind of walk through some of these insecurities with you. So you have someone that mentally has your back and can help you navigate some of these like more difficult emotions. Number three is fun. So like let's say you're talking to like an executive, you're cold calling like a CIO, and you're like, man, like this person has went to Harvard and went to Yale, and then you're like freaking out. So you think you're putting them on a pedestal essentially, which is weird. And then four, it's wait, fight, flight, freeze, fight, fight, freeze. Oh, or freeze. So freeze is just you you literally don't know what to do and you're like freaking out. Like maybe you're interviewing for an account executive role and you're like and you don't know how to answer that question if they're asking you like, hey, why should I hire you? So those are the steps in the framework that is helpful. All right. So the next thing is like being proactive. Like you have to let and communicate, like almost over communicate your case and let everyone know, hey, these are my intentions, and manage expectations, right? That's really important. So let's say you work at a company that's promising you the account executive role, or honestly, a lot of companies don't even have like a solid from SDR to AE track. Like when I was at Experian, there was literally no track. It was just like, yeah, and then I would talk to account executives like, hey, how do I get promoted? And they were just like, I don't know, So make sure you during the interview process, like that's something that you really talk. And then that's partly why I created this program, right? Because I realized there wasn't a strong mentorship like program. I mean, LinkedIn sort of have one, but I would argue even a big company like LinkedIn didn't really have a solid like track, you know, like they would hire AEs half most I would say maybe 35% of the AEs got promoted from SDRs, but a lot of times, as you guys notice, like a lot of the SDRs end up going to other roles like product management, CSM. But at LinkedIn, it was impossible. It was literally impossible. Like not one person went from SDR to SDR manager, right? So just something to be mindful of. And number six, inadequate skills development, right? So it's interesting. Like, how do I develop skills to grow? Um, I would say this is where like shadowing and mentoring comes in handy, right? You want to be able to have account executives that are willing to like groom you and have you either take notes or run certain portions of the meetings with you. And that will help groom you much better. And you have to be super proactive about it because if you don't, a lot of sales managers, their first instinct is not like, hey, like let me groom you, right? It's just like, yeah, you have to be super proactive about it. Number seven, lack of mentorship and support. So this is where it's important to like be proactive in reaching out to other account executives at other different companies that you potentially want to work at one day because you want to build that like pipeline, right? You can't put all your eggs in one basket, especially if it's like an early stage startup. if there's not a strong SDR to AE track, then you just want to like make sure you're doing everything you can to set you up, because you have to look after yourself at the end of the day, right? As we know, with all these layoffs, like SDRs are expendable, and sometimes they're one of the first people that get cut. So, all right, number 8, inefficient exposure to different parts of the sales process. So I remember when I was in the SDR role, like I would shadow a lot of my account executives, and I was like, oh, I got this. Like it seems so easy just watching it, right? But once you're actually in the role, it's a lot different than you think. It's a lot harder than you think. So you just want to ask as many questions as possible. You really want to have a close relationship with your AE. And if you're at a company that you have like 5 or 6 different AEs that you're supporting, like leave. Because honestly, that's not really a good model, because you're gonna get spread too thin, and like it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, reach out to me if you have any questions around this. I have a lot of thoughts around this. But so and the something that would be helpful is being able to add value beyond your role, right? Like how can I train and mentor other SDRs? Like what initiatives can I do to help grow the overall org and now show your ability to be in leadership and just to add value? So yeah, I hope this is helpful. I'll be doing a lot more of these videos because I do want to create like a repository for um SDRs that want to get promoted to AE. But yeah, you'll be hearing a lot more of me on these types of topics. Let me know what you enjoyed in the comments below, and I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.